So, inspired by it's topical too. We can talk about a new movie. I don't think either of us have seen it. I haven't seen it. But it just came out this weekend. Mufasa, the new Lion King movie, comes out. Which is about the famous character from the Lion King, famously voiced by James Earl Jones, who passed away recently.
Recently passed away.
And I've thought about this previously, but I just decided, I was like, this could be a fun avenue discussion of this like black-pilled theory that I've had kind of like in the back of my head, that like how coincidental it is that I feel like there's been a few. I'm thinking more along the lines of like biopics. So like Ray Charles dying right before or right after the Ray movie came out.
Did he? Yeah.
It was like the same year, I think.
Damn.
Johnny Cash, maybe he might have died a little before the movie.
I want to say he died in like 2003 or 4. So
yeah, then I guess
right
that
around there.
Before. Maybe they were in talks. I don't know.
Yeah.
This theory would be more substantial currently if Bob Dylan just died too, because he's got a biopic.
Well, now it's gonna
happen. But anyways, yeah. I mean, if we can, what I was kind of like getting at is that like to basically my theory is that like to drum up publicity for like the new movies,
they killed.
They have like Hollywood agents like go and kill these like icons to be like so they can do like an in memory of, and like because there's gonna be that in Mufasa, and and just to not it would be a bigger thing if he was actually in it, but I think people still like, he's such an iconic voice that people still associate that character with him, even if he's not voicing the one in this one.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, I feel like, slightly veering into Randy Quaid territory with his Star Whacker theory that like celebrities are being killed off. I don't know why he thought they were. I think it was more he didn't want to pay his taxes and he thought that like the IRS was going to kill him or something. But yeah, that is an interesting thing lately, that where like, I mean, this is just going to happen as like actors get older. Like it's going to happen more and more often. Like Emmett Walsh died not too long ago, and he was like kind of one of those very iconic character actors. Like,
he's probably not going to get a biopic though, sadly.
No, unfortunately. Yeah, the day that like the Jack Nicholson biopic comes out, like that dude's gonna croak.
Yeah,
because he has a son that looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
Apparently he was in that Smile 2 movie, and people were, I think, drawing comparison to like the Kubrick stares that Jack Nicholson does, and it's like, oh shit, he's doing the thing.
Yeah, I've seen that, like compare the side by side or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, they're taking him out.
Yeah. Oh shit! When did he die? Oh damn it! He lived a little bit longer. God.
What?
Stephen
Hawking. Oh, the theory of everything.
Yeah, I was like, come on.
Didn't Hawking die? Didn't Hawking die in like 2019, 2020? It was
2018 is what it said. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't super long ago. Yeah. But yeah, I just like I think I always go back to Ray, which shows how like early on I was a doomer from the get go.
Like, that's weird.
That was the first, like, when I was a little boy, I remember that coming out and hearing that he died. I was like, that's a coincidence. That seems
something formed in your brain, two things connected, and you're like, wait a minute here.
And then it keeps happening. It's not every single biopic, but I'm just saying, or a thing along that lines. Kind of like Carrie Fisher, like before The Last Jedi. I mean, that's a little different if it's just like a movie, because I mean, there's always that happens. Not always. I was gonna say always, but that happens every now and then where, an actor's like working on a movie and then they pass away.
Right.
I feel like we just watched something where that happened. Oliver Reed, because we watched. He's in the first Gladiator movie.
Okay.
He's an old English actor.
Was he in The Brood?
Yeah.
That's because I think when we did the Brood episode, we talked about like how his last movie was Gladiator, and he was like drunk off his ass on set.
Yes,
and, like, he had problems. Anyway,
yeah,
yes,
he drank like a lot in his life. Yeah, but he died during like on a break from the movie, and it was because he challenged it says 5 young sailors to a drinking match, and he drank 8 pints of German lager, a dozen shots of rum, half a bottle of whiskey, and a few shots of Hennessy, and then beat all of them in arm wrestling, and then had a heart attack and died. So that's
honestly,
that's not my like, yeah,
that's kinda awesome.
No, yeah, that doesn't fit into my whole overall theory, but I just wanted to point that out because I thought
that's like he went out of this world exactly how he wanted to on his own terms.
100%. I was like, when she told me that, I was like, you can't even like really be sad about that. It's like that's fucking rocks. Like that's awesome.
Like God had to strike him down because he was too powerful.
Yeah.
He like fended off all of these like just young like supple sailors that were just like, look at this old guy, whatever, we can take him, and then he just kicks all their asses.
Yeah. I've gotten into like I watch a bunch of like Oliver Reed interviews. He's a very like, I feel like he's probably tipsy to some level in like everyone, but he seems like he would be like, he's the guy that everybody likes. Like if he lived in town, he's like the town drunk that is just friends with everybody and everybody loves him and stuff. He just seems like such a likable guy. So yeah, totally unrelated to my doomer theory, but yeah, that guy's great. Well, speaking of old dead people, do you also have a hard on right now? That's right. We got our morning woods going for episode 169.
Wow, nice.
Of ThereWillBeDuds. I'm your co-host TJ, and with me as always,
I am Nick, and I'm feeling sexual.
That's good. This is a very sexual movie. And that movie is American Gigolo from 1980, directed by Paul Schrader. It follows a gigolo, played by Richard Gere. He's a very like high-end male escort in the LA area, who is getting involved romantically, not transactionally, with a like politician's wife, or he's like a politician or some like rich guy's wife, and also being investigated for the murder of a former client that he had like just seen like right before she died. Yeah, it's very. I've seen quite a few Paul Schrader movies at this point. It's a very Paul Schrader movie. It's I don't know if people coined it for his movies in particular, or if it's just a general term, but it's a God's lonely man. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah. So I was looking at, I think IMDb trivia or maybe on the Wikipedia article, but it does mention this is part of like his unofficial like Lonely Man trilogy.
Yes.
And I think there were a couple other movies that
yeah, his most recent ones are like all 3 of them. So there's like First Reformed, Card Counter, and Master Gardener are all that. I would argue that Taxi Driver, which he didn't direct but he wrote, Taxi Driver is very much that, just maybe like a schizophrenic God's Lonely Man.
Yeah.
And I think you could even argue to an extent that like that's what Mishima is too. But
I did get that. I did think of Mishima just as a very like sort of solitary, misunderstood guy that
yeah,
like a guy like walking his own path.
yeah, it's like Sigma grind set. Like
he walks a lonely road. The boulevard,
the only road that he's
dreams.
ever known.
Yes.
Yeah.
IMDb says Lonely Man trilogy, Light Sleeper from 1992 and The Walker from 2007. So those are the two that IMDb lists.
So not
as, like,
okay.
Yeah,
I see. So there's
I think
an
those other ones
additional
would probably
trilogy.
fit.
Yeah. Okay.
A quadrilogy of
Yeah, or like I wonder if there's even more, like if you're gonna throw in those other ones that I mentioned too. He has like a trilogy of trilogies of God's Lonely Man.
the God's Lonely Man trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So what do we think? I like that it started with I didn't know that it was gonna continue to be like the main musical motif of the score.
I didn't know that song was written for this.
Oh, I didn't know that it was written for this either. Oh, that's fucking cool. That's awesome. I love that song. I really like old school, like Blondie. But yeah, that's a great song.
Giorgio Moroder is the guy that did all the music, and he's kind of this godfather of like electronic funk disco music. Like my first exposure to Giorgio is on the Daft Punk album Random Access Memories.
Oh.
There's a song that has him like talking about his early days. I think it's called Giorgio by Moroder. And he's like, when I was 17, I used to go to the discotheques and I would sleep in my car. I know the one
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
also a great
him.
Album. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's kind of him telling his whole story, but I think this was like one of the big things that he did was like scored this movie because I was like I thought the Blondie song was like just a song that they used. I was like, okay, there's the Blondie song, and then the rest of it is gonna be Giorgio's music. But then like all of Giorgio's music was kind of like a riff on the Blondie theme. So it's like all the times when Julian is like driving around all pensive, it's like it's the Blondie song, but it's like minor key, little down tempo, little more pensive, little sadder. And I was like, oh, they're just using the Blondie song a lot. And then I looked it up and it's like, oh, it's because he wrote it for Debbie Harry.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
Yeah, that opening shot is like I don't know, this is like a vibes movie for me. I think I will say I think this is like a very imperfect movie. But in terms of like aesthetic and vibes and like mood and tone, I thought it was really cool. I thought Richard Gere driving around with like the top down on his convertible, just being kind of like a brooding like lady killer, I thought was really good. I liked it.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I haven't seen too many Richard Gere movies. I was thinking other than this, like I know I've seen like the Mothman Prophecies. Like, have I seen any other Richard Gere movie before? It just like occurred to me after this.
I always assumed that he was like the rom-com guy. I think I've only known Richard Gere as like in his 50s and 60s from like movies from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and I always assumed that he was just kind of like a romantic comedy guy. But now that I've seen this, and then the other one I've seen is Days of Heaven, Terrence Malick movie.
Yeah, I still need to see that
which
one.
Yeah. He hardly talks in that movie. It's very much that's like
sounds
a
like a Terrence
movie.
Malick movie.
Yeah. He's like a farmhand who kind of, it's almost like Parasite, where it's like him and his wife or sister, they try to like weasel their way onto like this farm of like this super duper wealthy guy, and then shit goes down. But it's kind of like a stealth movie where Richard Gere is like this very like low underclass guy trying to like get into the upper echelons. But very like striking, beautiful visuals in that movie. I haven't seen it in a second, but yeah.
I also thought it was kind of funny that like I kept thinking of like Pretty Woman being like 10 years after this, where he's like the rich benefactor or whatever of a LA prostitute.
He's like, oh, I could save her.
Yeah. That's the good ending of this movie. Like if he'd have like made it out, he's like, I'm gonna change my ways and I'm a successful businessman. Yeah, I would agree that it's vibes. It has some good vibes. There was some like I don't always note this, but there was some like particular decor that I liked. Like there's one where I don't remember if it's his apartment or another one that he was just kind of walking around. It was that like what I got like on like the poster, the like harsh shadows, and they're just like I was like, wow, that's a really nice like counter and cabinets. I like those.
Yeah.
Very like 80s, very of the time or whatever.
I think it was his apartment because you can kind of see it when during that scene where he's like kind of tearing his apartment apart looking for evidence that gets planted on him. But I noticed like he had like these really nice like deep kitchen sinks and like his countertop kind of like curved almost like an S, and it had like a rounded edge to the top of the countertop.
That's
like
the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Almost like retro futurism or something like that. Like
very
very like kind of like American Psycho. Like obviously like Julian is not
Patrick Bateman.
But I don't know, I was like, because I bought the special edition of this a while back, and like I was reading the booklet inside there, and there was like quotes from like Bret Easton Ellis, and like I think this was like a big influence on like him for like American Psycho, or like kind of like the ideas, because it's like he's got he has like all of these perfect suits that he has for like every occasion. He's always wearing a suit, and everything is like perfectly manicured. Even like the scene when he's doing like the upside down like pull-ups or whatever. I was like, even Chloe looked over me. I was like, that's kind of Patrick Bateman. Like,
that is very
Like all it's missing is the part where he's peeling the face mask off.
Yeah. That reminds me. There's a part that I was like, come on, what the fuck? Like, it's near the end, and he's really starting to kind of like get like desperate. So he goes to like a restaurant or something and meets one of his clients. It might be the Swedish lady or whatever. And he just has like some like khakis on, and then he has like a blue button-up shirt, and like the top, he's kind of got like the top unbuttoned so you can see a little bit of his chest. He doesn't have a tie on. Yeah, and the girl's like, she's like, why'd you come here dressed like that? Nobody's gonna be interested in you like that. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like he's ready for like a magazine photo shoot right now. Like,
or just like everyone in this town knows that he's like a male prostitute, and they're like, Julian, you're not gonna make any money coming in here dressed like this. Like just everybody knows, and it's just like Julian is such a cool guy that they're all like, oh. He's like the lovable male prostitute.
Yeah. But yeah, that was silly. I'm like, what are you talking about, lady? Like, come on. I will say I did find a lot of this movie to be pretty dull, and like to where like I couldn't really like. It was kind of a chicken or the egg thing where I was like, can I not figure out what's going on, or do I not care enough to like follow what's going on? Because there was just some stuff like that. I'm like, wait, why is he talking to this person in particular? Like, I know that he's like being framed for the murder and was trying to like figure out who's doing it and all that, but it was just kind of like there were some bits where he was talking to, maybe he had too many female clients and I couldn't keep them all straight, and I'm like, okay, wait, what part of the pie does this one fill? I don't I don't know. I just, so it was just a little like I will say that there were like a few moments of kind of just like tedium, just like I don't know, I don't want to say like boring, but I think it could have been tightened up a bit. Like
I feel like
maybe.
that's the thing we say all the time on the show. Is like, make it a tight 90. Make it a tight 90.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the perfect amount of time for a movie with a decent amount of exceptions. But because this was like pushing 2 hours.
Yeah, it was like under, yeah.
I think once the like the framing of the murder stuff started taking like precedent on the plot, I think it was more engaging for me, at least his sort of like unraveling, like trying to figure out who's doing it and why they're doing it. And I think it's a case of you have to like infer a lot from the characters. I don't think it's like very explicitly just like told to you like by the characters. They're not like explaining their motivations to each other all the time. It also helped that I read a couple of the essays in the book about the movies that like kind of a lot of it just.
Was this a Criterion or is it just like some special edition thing?
Arrow.
Oh, okay, Arrow. All right.
Arrow put one out. But a lot of what the like kind of like essays and reviews are talking about were like the loneliness of Richard Gere's character and like his, inability to like allow himself pleasure. Like he is the pleasure giver. Essentially, I don't like that I said that. I don't like the words that I don't like those combinations of it. He's the pleasure giver. But like, there's that scene where he is with I forget her character's name.
Michelle. I know that.
Michelle, yes.
She's the one that he's like actually
the senator's wife. Yeah. Where, they're like kind of in bed and like making out. And she's like, I don't want to make love. I just want to kiss.
Yeah.
And then she's like, because when we make love, you're just going to work.
Yeah.
Like it's like, it's probably good for her, but there's no connection there between the two of them because this is just for him. It's just like a job. Like there's that scene where he talks about how it took him like 3 hours to make an old lady come.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I was proud of that.
Yeah. And he's like, who else is gonna take that time to do that or whatever? Yeah. Yeah, there's moments like that I appreciate. Like I like the ending where he says, what's his? He's like, it's like the last line of the movie where he says like, Michelle, you're the.
It took me so long to come around to you, or something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Which apparently is from the movie Pickpocket from 1959.
Like that same line or whatever.
I looked it up, and literally that movie ends with like a guy in prison, and like the woman comes to him, and he says, "It took me so long to come around to you." Like it's not the exact same line, but apparently like Paul Schrader went to go see Pickpocket, and I guess I think he just like wears his influences on his sleeve and like doesn't really care because people are like, "Oh, that's literally the exact same ending to this movie."
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks because I kind of like that. That's funny too.
You like the ending?
Yeah, like like in a sense of like it was one of those where I liked that moment, and if I had been able to connect to that, like the character, like throughout the movie, I'm sure I would have liked that like more. But it just kind of was like, oh, that's would be better, I guess, moment. But I still kind of like liked it. But also, I just kept thinking of a movie that I mentioned of his before, The Card Counter. So there's no dialogue, but it ends like almost the exact same way. So he must really like that Pickpocket movie. And I like The Card Counter a lot. That's like like the whole like lonely man like can't connect to anyone sort of thing. It's like that is very much that movie. But it I mean, I guess that's spoilers for that movie, kind of how it ends, but yeah, I like that. I like that one a lot.
Part of the ending though that I think kind of like took me back a little bit was the fact that like a maid saw that you were trying to save Leon, so they're not going to charge you with that. And I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
He basically pushed him off a balcony and like just because he regretted doing it, like doesn't change the fact that like he was in that position because you put him there.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that felt a little bit like, oh, we're making this a very tight bow of an ending, like just very neat. Just like don't worry about him. He's fine. Yeah. Like the movie like knows that Leon was a bad guy, so they're just like we're not worried about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I know they like walked that back, but I thought it was going to be like, "Oh, so he's like I was like, "Oh, it's going to end with like he's in jail for the for a murder he didn't
cleared
commit
for the murder that
but then they like point out that like he's okay for that one. I'm like, oh, so he's still just in jail for the one that he's framed for. It was weird. Also, the whole ending sequence, like basically like after Leon's death through the end, it's like 5 minutes, and it's really weird how it's like starts and like fades to black. It's like here's a minute of Michelle talking to the detectives, fade to black.
Yeah.
Here's them in the call box thing, whatever you want to call that. Fade to black, and it was like 4 or 5 of those scenes like back to back, and then it just ended. And I was like, what? Why? Like, why did they do that for the end? That was
we were watching it, and Chloe was like, "How much time do we have left?" And then I like
had
the
to
little
check.
info, and she was like, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
we're like, what?
Yeah, I did the same thing. I had to check the time there, and yeah, very very weird, very strange way to end it. But yeah, I was gonna say it's funny you say that like it. I mean, I guess that makes sense because that's where like this plot is. But that you got like more engaged like when the murder plot happened and all that. That's where I think it started to lose me, honestly. Like that was where I kind of just because then it just kind of felt like a more standard with that whole like whatever like about his like character stuff being in there, like that one felt just more kind of like a standard like I don't know crime stuff. I don't know what the movie would have been about if that wasn't a part of it, but I'm just saying that that's the part that I was less interested in. I was definitely more into like the romantic stuff with Michelle.
Or just like him going around to different social events with like these older women and kind of being silly with it. Like, like it kind of, and maybe it's because
I really like that stuff.
Detective Sunday looked like Billy Crystal to me a little bit, but like the scene when him and one of the older women are like at it looks like an auction or like and they see her friend and they put on like a German accent and he pretends to knock the thing over. Yeah. Like that made me think of that scene in When Harry Met Sally.
They kind of do.
He's like, I would like to push the paprika, or like that scene where like they're kind of being silly with it. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cute. It's kind of funny. Like you kind of see like a lighter side to the point where it's like you kind of see a little bit of his inner life where like he does seem to enjoy like being company to these older women. Like I don't know if he was like on the clock during that scene, but the way that he was like kind of talking and acting, he definitely like seemed to be enjoying himself.
They like exit the building and they're like laughing, like falling into each other kind of thing. Like that. It seems like there's some like genuine like, I don't think that was like 100% his job or whatever. But I did like that stuff a lot. Yeah, the just kind of palling around with his old lady friends and stuff. Like it was, cute in a way.
And then they all sell him out. Yeah, they all like. Which it's such a bummer when he goes to like the estate to like get an alibi, and she's just like oh yeah, he's the renovator
or something. Yeah.
And like all these husbands are like, I know what you're doing, I know what you are, I know why you're here. Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I'm not saying that this isn't something that's like always at the forefront of my mind, but watching like older movies, you're like being prepared for like not like currently like culturally sensitive like
Woo!
elements. And, like
Yeah.
right away, this one hits you with a double whammy, like, back to back. I think he says it like twice.
They used the F slur quite a few,
Yeah.
but then he did the 1-2 punch of the R word F slur, and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
dude.
I think he only refers to like gay stuff or gay people as the F. I don't think he ever uses the word like gay or homosexual. It's just F.
Yeah. and maybe this is me like cutting a check to Paul Schrader where I shouldn't, but I was like, was that just like part of the culture back in like the 70s and the 80s? Like,
it could be saying more about the character than like the writing or the writer, you mean?
Yeah, where it's like I don't think it was like, I don't know, because he goes to like the club with Leon and or like, and there's just like all of like the Tom of Finland style dudes like dancing on the dance floor, and it almost seems like transactional. Like he's not saying it like in a hateful way. He's just saying this is like a preference that I have, and I don't do that.
You know, I kind of think that it is purposeful, not just, being insensitive. I think there is a point to him, maybe not the R side.
That might be a little more revealing about him.
But one, unless he had a major change of heart. I will say, too, I think that because Mishima tackles some like homosexual stuff in, I think, a very like, I mean, coming from a not gay standpoint, so maybe I'm not the ultimate authority on this, but I think it does that in like a tasteful way and kind of like a respectful way. It doesn't feel, it feels like pretty, I guess, progressive, I guess, for the time, the way that Mishima kind of depicts it. But also I think that the reason that they have him so kind of like against it and like, no, I don't do that, that stuff. Is so that it may, like, at the end when he comes to Leon and he's like, I'll do anything. I'll do the, I'll do the gay stuff. I'll do kink. I'll do it. I think that's so it shows like how much he's against it, so that ending part, how like desperate he is, where he's going to go against like this thing that he is like, that he like hates and like doesn't want to do. Like that's how
it
far
sort of implies that he's
fallen.
Done it before.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Maybe
before he was like established, that he was just like, a gig is a gig, a trick is a trick. That was like a fun bit of like old nomenclature for like that kind of stuff.
I like the other old nomenclature I liked was when they're seeing Michelle. He's with one of his other clients, but they're at like some thing that Michelle's husband is like doing a speech at, and the lady that he's with is like, she's like, this guy's a real comer. And dude, it made me think of, it's like the only other person I've heard say that came up around the same time, because it's the Donald Trump, the watch out, he's a comer.
Yeah. That tracks. Like that was like the language of the 70s and the 80s.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh God, what is that from Arrested Development? There's like, no, tricks are what whores do for money.
Yeah.
Or candy.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Poor Leon. Maybe not. Maybe not poor Leon.
Well, yeah. He's kind of like,
I feel like
come and go a bit. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like Leon and the other like I don't know what you'd want to call her, like head mistress, like the sort of like,
you're talking about the Swedish lady?
Yeah. They kind of like, I think if any characters kind of like say the subtext of the movie, it's them. where they're like, he's like, why me, Leon? Why are you framing me? And he's like, because you're frameable, because no one cares about you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think even I feel like her name is like Angela or Angie or something, but
I don't remember.
even she says something along the lines of like all these they'll all turn on you eventually. Like you hang out with these older women and like you're having fun now, but eventually they will all like give you up or leave you behind. And like that's exactly what happens to them. So like those two characters, I feel like if there is like any sort of just like, here's the point of the movie, like those two characters kind of hammer that in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. How are you feeling? I feel like that was like a quick conversation, but also I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Like I read through like all my points and like
yeah. I'm good to these.
Okay.
Do you
want to start? I think I did the last one.
Yeah, I can start. I am feeling, and I think this could possibly go up in another viewing, but based purely on vibes, I'm thinking like a strong 7 to like a light 8. I really dug the aesthetic and the vibes of this movie. Like all like the pools and the apartment shots are cool. The all the scenes where it's like he's kind of not silhouetted, but like the curtains are like kind of cast they cast a shadow on him, like the blinds or whatever.
Yeah.
All those shots are very cool and like moody and aesthetic. And I think all the leads are pretty good. I really like Detective Sunday, who Chloe pointed out is like the culture guy from the Princess Diaries.
Yeah. Yep. He's like the chauffeur.
It was wild seeing him like that young.
Hector Elizondo. Yeah.
Yeah, he looked, again, I thought he looked a lot like Billy Crystal to me. Like he
I
kind
could
of had
see that, yeah.
He had like those eyes, and he kind of had a manner of speaking that reminded me of Billy Crystal.
It's his voice. His voice, I was like, oh, I knew who that was like right away.
Yeah.
He's in Pretty Woman too.
That's right.
Oh,
that's right.
And Valentine's Day. Oh my God, yeah. He's like yeah. With
was he the old guy in Valentine's Day?
Yeah, with Shirley MacLaine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like they go to that movie in the park and then like they kiss or something like that.
Was that them or was that? Yeah. Yes. Because she's
They're
in
like
the
watching
movie.
the movie that she's in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah, that's a wild movie.
But yeah, I think there were maybe some kind of dull moments, some like kind of all right, what are we doing kind of moments for this. But overall, I thought it was very sleek and sexy and fun and kind of funny in spots too. Like when the politician's little henchman is following him down the street and he's just like doing a dog shit job at it.
Oh yeah.
So Richard Gere just like writes his phone number on his forehead.
Yeah.
And just right. There you go. Tell him you can call me. Yeah. So
yeah, that's funny.
Overall, glad to have another Paul Schrader movie kind of ticked off the list.
True.
There's a lot of his that I want to see. Still want to see Taxi Driver. I have First Reformed. Still haven't seen that, but that's one that I definitely want to watch.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and the one after that was The Card Counter, and I like those a lot. I think the last one in that little mini trilogy is not as good. The Master Gardener.
I've heard about that one.
Wasn't as big on that one. Yeah.
So yeah, light 7, soft 8.
Nice. Speaking of other Paul Schrader movies, I can't believe I hadn't thought of this when we were talking about this. And I mean, it's not like this one didn't work for this episode, but I totally forgot the one that I had been wanting to watch that he did right before this is called Hardcore.
With George C. Scott.
Yeah. Like, man, that might have been like even more fitting. And he's done a lot of like very movies about sex industry, because have you heard he did a movie called Autofocus too, which I saw when I was way too young. I guess that was technically the first Paul Schrader movie I'd ever seen. I think because it had like Willem Dafoe and Greg Kinnear in it, and I liked both those guys at the time. I mean, I guess I still like them, but that's about this guy who was on a show in the 60s, Hogan's Heroes, who like kind of falls into a world of like sex depravity and stuff, and I think he ends up getting like killed because of it at the end or something. I don't know. It's like a real person. It was a real actor. Yeah. So anyways, he's got a lot of, we could probably just like every time, 69 episode, whatever, we could do another Paul Schrader movie. And then when we get to episode 6,969, we can just have him on.
Yeah.
When he's 120 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, I went a bit lower. I went with I decided on a 4 for this. I was like split between I was like thinking, yeah, is this like one of those average ones? But then I was like, yeah, but I definitely didn't like it. Other than like I liked moments, but the overall experience I did not like. So it's like, okay, so it's not, I can't even like faithfully put it as a 5, but I also didn't like hate it or like despise the things. I'm like, that's where like if I don't like actively dislike something, but I don't like it, I think that's kind of where it sits, It's kind
of where you were at with like Heart 8.
Yeah, I think somewhere in there. Yeah.
I think you gave that one a 5.
So yeah, it's got a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the elements that he features in his other stuff, but it just didn't click for me in this one. I don't know, the other ones just have better, like maybe more interesting like stories in addition to the character driven stuff. Yeah, I can't remember what I gave Master Gardener. I gave that a 4 too, it looks like. So this one's on the level with that one. But everything else of his that I've seen is like at least like a 7 or 8, I think. So it's like I said, I like those 2 that I mentioned. I love Mishima. I love Last Temptation of Christ. That one is kind of like a literal God's Lonely Man movie.
Maybe the loneliest man.
Yeah. But yeah. So 4 for me.
Okay. Yeah, it was kind of a shot in the dark. But I had recently picked this up kind of like as a blind buy, and I was like, let's give this one a shot.
No, it was, again, it's a perfect, like it's a really good pick for the episode, and yeah, like you said, I'm a Paul Schrader fan, so it's always good to check one off the list, whether or not it's like particularly resonates with me or whatever. So
plus you see Richard Gere's peen for like a second.
That was pretty sweet. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I thought it was gonna be way more explicit, but it's just kind of like a side profile.
Yeah. I saw a new movie that apparently like a lot of people are talking about. I just kind of, it was a case of like, I don't know, maybe I had like subconsciously it came to mind because it was popular and I didn't realize it. But anyways, I saw the new Netflix movie Carry On, which a lot of people are comparing to like Die Hard, which I could get. I get the vibe. It's like an action movie. It's set at Christmas. It's in an airport, which the second Die Hard movie is set in an airport.
Okay.
But it had piqued my interest, I guess, because like I like the 2 leads, Taron Egerton, and then Jason Bateman plays the bad guy, and that's kind of fun. Never seen Jason Bateman play like an out and out bad guy before.
I opened up Netflix and I saw the poster for it, and it's like it is so hard for me to take Jason Bateman seriously because like I think Michael Bluth is just one of those like career defining roles for him, where every time, even if like every clip I've ever seen of that show Ozark, hearing him talk like in moments where I think he's supposed to be like kind of like a calculating badass, I still just hear Michael Bluth. So I saw that like poster with him with like the hoodie on, and it just kind of made me giggle because I'm like, that's Michael Bluth. I know who you are. Anyway,
I will say, he's good in that Ozark show though.
Yeah,
it's good. So maybe it helps that I have seen that where he's like not
kind of like a stammering like.
Yeah, it's kind of like a akin to like Walter White, but he's not quite like out and out like as unforgivable because he's not the one. He's like working for like criminals basically, but he's just doing like the money laundering. So he's kind of like a middleman in like a Walter White empire, I guess.
Yeah. Okay,
but he's still not like a good guy. But yeah, and I mean, I guess there was kind of like a little of that, like some of the ways that he like talks to him, or there's like, I can't remember what. There's a scene in particular where I was thinking of like him like chastising George Michael or something like that. But yeah, it was fun. It's a kind of dumb action movie, but it's a I don't know, maybe that's like a subgenre that I like of did you ever see that movie Phone Booth with Colin Farrell from like 2000 or something like that?
I know what you're talking about. I remember like the ad campaign for that movie, like the shots of him in the phone booth, like looking around, and just like the tension ramping up. I remember like the trailer. I remember when it came out.
Okay. Yeah, it's like because a lot of this, or a lot of those two, is like he has like an earpiece in, and then Jason Bateman's like basically like telling him like what to do, and he's like, if you don't do this, or kill your wife, or whatever, that kind of shit. And that's like Phone Booth is like, I think almost entirely he's in the phone booth and he's on the phone with the bad guy, Kiefer Sutherland, and I kind of like that sort of tension-y stuff. So I'm like really into that. Yeah, that particular like.
Yeah, it's like a bomb waiting to go off type of thing where you're just
maybe that's it. Yeah. It's So yeah, and there's plenty of that in this. There's stuff where like he's like, you can hear. There's a part where he's like looking around, like trying to figure out where he is because he knows he's like in the airport somewhere. So he's trying to see where like Jason Bateman is, and he can like hear people like eating or something. So he like looks over at the restaurant and then he just kind of like tries to use like clues like that or whatever. That's
they do like fun. The Tim and Eric like crunches and slurps.
Yeah.
Extreme close-ups of like.
Yeah.
So he's like trying to pick out his voice, like trying to like, because he doesn't know what he looks like.
Right.
Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah. They eventually do, of course, like meet face to face and stuff. And there's like a decent amount of like, twists and turns and stuff. And it's fun how it like keeps that. I'm always interested how movies will keep that that hook going for like the entire length of a movie, and the whole movie isn't that. Like there is like parts where it's not just him sitting in one spot with the earpiece and like that's it. It does find ways to kind of change course.
Kind of sounds like Trap
times.
A little bit.
I saw some people was comparing it to Trap too. I kind of see that. Like it's a one location sort of.
Like what you were saying about like how long can they keep the hook in?
Oh sure, yeah.
That's definitely what that made me think of.
Yeah, it's definitely more so that than Trap. Yeah, man, if Trap had stuck to like the concert venue stuff as much as this sticks to that, sticks to like the main thing in this, because that was like my big critique with Trap was that like when it goes away from the concert, it's like not quite as good. Yeah, that could have been even better. yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I have like a ton to say about it, but it is kind of like it's not as polished, obviously, as Die Hard, but if you want like, we have Die Hard at home sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's good. It's entertaining. It's like it wears the, Christmas movie stuff on its sleeve. It's very heavily like there's Christmas movie music all over. And actually, speaking of Breaking Bad, Dean Norris is in this too.
Hell yeah. Playing a cop, presumably.
Yeah, well, yeah, a TSA agent, yeah, because that's
yeah.
So yeah, kind of.
I could see him being like one of those overzealous TSA agents that's just like, nope, take your shoes off. Like he seems like the kind of guy that has like that build for that type of role.
Kind of. He's like the guy. He's like the head one. So he's like the boss guy that he comes to, and he's not too. I feel like he could have played it like exactly like Hank Schrader, but he plays it a little more like straight or whatever. And yeah, it gets a little like ridiculous with like where it goes, or like what's what what he's like trying to do or whatever, but not like completely out of hand. So yeah, it was fun. It's a fun movie.
Interesting.
For something to kill some time.
Yeah, that sounds like it almost kind of reminds me of like Richard Jewell, although I think the Richard Jewell character is much more like there's no, I don't know. It's like similar idea where there's like some sort of like threat to the public, and there's like, what does he do? Does he like take care of it? Does he call it in? Does he not call it in? It's not really got like the blackmail aspect, I guess, but like, I guess
I don't know that one. I've heard of the movie, but
it's interesting. You should check Richard Jewell out.
Okay.
I thought it was gonna be like a weird like pro right wing propaganda movie,
because it's a Clint Eastwood movie.
Because Clint Eastwood, but I don't know.
Okay. Is it is that based on a true story?
That's based on a true story.
Okay.
Where he's like a security guard at like Disney World or something, and he sees a suspicious package, and like he thinks it's a bomb and calls in the bomb threat, and it turns out to be a bomb. But then it's like the feds are trying to like frame him for being like the alleged bomber, and basically he has to like fight for his own innocence.
Oh. What the fuck?
I think, yeah, very, very loose, like reminded me of that, where it's like
that's shitty.
Kind of like a guy who's like trying to do good.
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of a two-parter here. It's still Christmas time, and I don't know what put me in the mood to watch 28 Days Later. Maybe it was because there was like the 28 weeks or 28 years later trailer that just dropped. Yeah. But 28 Days Later technically could be a Christmas movie. There's one scene when they go to Brendan Gleeson's apartment. They have Christmas lights in the apartment. And Frosty the Snowman is playing when they walk in. So I'm like, Christmas movie. Boom. But revisited that one for the first time in a long time, and hot damn, that movie holds up pretty well to me. Nice. It's it's kind of like a hot commodity these days. I don't know if you know about like the scarcity of that movie, but like it's been out of print for years, and you cannot stream it like anywhere legally. Like I think Disney Plus had it at one point in time, or like one of the streamers, but it's gone now. And so it's like if you find like DVD or Blu-ray copies of it, it's like $50 or $60
really
now.
Wow.
Like it's become its own like commodity. It's crazy. So we watched my DVD of it, and I'm like, physical media, huh? I guess it's a good thing.
Cool.
And yeah, it's so much fun. Like, I forget, like, the first half of that movie is, like, kind of lighthearted. Like, obviously, like, the beginning of the movie, like, the monkeys, like, they get released, and then Cillian Murphy wakes up hanging dong like Julian in American Gigolo. But I forgot about the scene where like they go to the grocery store and they like get their carts and they're just like running around like the supermarket sweep.
Yeah, it has that one song that's very like kind of bubbly or I think, right?
Yeah, very like up tempo. Yeah. And then it's like when Brendan Gleeson's like driving around and they're just like, it's almost like a thrill ride, even though there's like imminent danger all around. So I forgot how like kind of fun and funny that movie can be at the very beginning. And then once was Christopher Eccleston, he's like the Marine guy.
Yeah.
Once that shit happens, Chloe was like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore.
Or I mean, is that, or like when Brendan Gleeson goes, because that always like.
I told her, I was like, you're about to see like the most frustrating like like thing that's ever happened in a movie before.
She'd never seen it before?
No, I had no idea.
Wow.
But did you watch the trailer for 28 Years Later?
Yeah, I did. I just once through, but yeah, I did.
I liked the apparently it was a Rudyard Kipling poem that was being read about like the boots marching up and down. Where I think it's like the poem is basically from the perspective of like a soldier who the only thing that they know is marching up and down, marching boots, like that whole thing. And I don't know, it's just refreshing to see a trailer that's like not just a down tempo version of a pop song.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, yeah, I don't know, I don't remember too much about the trailer itself, but I might watch it again. I don't know. I might just kind of leave it because, like, you know, Danny Boyle's doing it again. Alex Garland's doing it again. I'm in. You know.
Yeah.
The
other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just like the other thing that I remarked upon was the music in 28 Days Later. I've been listening to a little bit of Godspeed You, Dark Emperor, which I think the song that plays, it's not like the main theme, like the bum 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 bum.
Yeah, I know it.
But the song that's playing when like Jim is running away and they blow up the gas station.
Mm-hmm.
That is I think the song's called East Hastings, actually.
Oh, fun.
But it's from that band, Godspeed You, Black Emperor.
So no, I like the Season song. I like a lot from that one. That's I think maybe that's a credit song. Maybe I remember. It's also been a long time since I've seen that, but I know I like that one a lot. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Danny Boyle's one of those that has like a pretty good ear for music in his movies.
The shot that got like Chloe really good though was when when Jim releases Mailer, like the infected that they have chained up in like the little courtyard. Mm-hmm. There's like it's almost like the shot from The Descent where it's like it's blinking you miss it almost. But like when it cuts to the guy standing next to the glass and you just see Mailer's face in the window.
There's some shots in that are like really like terrifying. Like I think like you mentioned like the monkeys at the beginning is like that scene is very like again just a thing that Danny Boyle is really good at. Like he's really good at like visceralness in movies, which I think is why maybe he's so suited to do like a zombie movie because it's like what they are. But thinking of like, you know, so many moments in like Train Spotting or you know, the scene where he has to cut his arm off in 127 hours.
I forgot he did that movie.
Yeah. You know, but like he's really good at like making like just making you like cringe at stuff or like just making very like just kind of quick like brutal like like there's. And it's like the lighting and the camera. I think it maybe the low camera quality in that movie is like assisted by it. But like I just think of like I feel like his like eyes are glowing almost, but it's not like
they I found
very memorable frames throughout that movie.
Yeah, they must have like put like a red like glow filter. I sent it in the chat for like the Duds chat, but like he almost has like a silly face. He's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it, or maybe they might have. Maybe they just were like shining a light on his face almost, and then he had. So no, yeah, they do wear like the contacts. I think they give the people who have the or who are the zombies.
And even like that scene when Jim walks into the church and it's like he sees all like the bodies piled on each other, and just the way that like the infected move and like twitch, I think is also like so terrifying. But like when he's in the church and he's like, hello, and like you see the one guy in the pile like get up and like look at him, and it's like, huh. And then the pastor like comes out of the door and he's just like like the way that they twitch and they move is so terrifying.
Yeah. I've heard that because I haven't watched either of those in a very long time. And I remember really liking both of them, but I've heard people like namely just a particular podcast, but I think I've seen other people on like Letterboxd who have like rewatched it recently, and apparently the second one is like does not hold up. Apparently that one sucks. And it's not one's not Danny Boyle. I don't think
it's either
Alex
of them.
Garland did that one either.
They might have like taken a producing credit.
I'm sure
or
that
something
they were
along those
producers.
lines, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of in the way that like John Carpenter is like, hell yeah, make another Halloween movie. I get a royalty or whatever, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely be watching both of them just purely out of just it's been long enough since I've seen them, but I'll definitely be watching both of them at least before Years comes out. Yeah. So
the only thing I really remember from 28 Weeks Later is the eye pushing scene at the very like when which I forgot that there was one in 28 Days Later too when Jim kind of comes back to the compound.
Yeah.
That was something that I picked up on, and you know, maybe it's not that mind-blowing when you watch this movie as an adult, but it's definitely something I didn't pick up on when I watched it like in high school. But like the when Jim shows back up and like brutally beats the shit out of one of those guys and like pushes his thumbs through his eyes, and what's her name? Naomi Harris, is that the actress?
Yes.
She doesn't know if he's infected.
Yeah, that's like the point. Yeah.
Where you're like, yeah, I mean, it's like obvious now watching it like as an adult, but I'm like, that's like the subtext of the movie, like the nature of man. Like it didn't take much for him to like revert into this rage like state. And then, you know, you see all the footage of just like that I'm pretty sure was real at the very beginning, like all of, like the protest footage. And then you see a guy getting like the like necklace with like the tire around his head, and they light him on fire and shit. That, and then like just like that desensitization to it or whatever. Just the monkey just laying there. Yeah. So I would say absolutely 28 Days Later holds up in that regard. Yeah, very curious to watch 28 Weeks. It's got the guy from Trainspotting, or one of them.
Is it? Oh yeah, Robert Carlyle. Yeah. That's what I feel like. I remember like the opening being pretty. Because the opening is like they're at like a cottage or something, and there's like an attack, and he like leaves all of them behind or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Like he could have saved some of them or something, but
yeah. I think he like feels guilty about it.
Yeah.
And then I was reading up on it, and it's like his wife is like a carrier, so it's like she's immune to it, and he kisses her, and the saliva.
I do remember that. Yeah, being like, so maybe that's kind of what something, because like I feel like I remember even when I was younger being like, man, that's so dumb. But maybe that movie's full of like so dumb moments like that I'm just not remembering. Because like, yeah, they're like, she's in quarantine because she's a carrier. It's an extremely contagious, infectious disease that will turn you into a rage zombie. And they're like, do not engage with her. Don't. And then he's like, well, I'm going to do it. And then he instantly turns into a rage zombie and kills her and starts an outbreak. And like, yeah, it is pretty dumb. You think that like, I feel like you would have somebody like watching her all the time or something.
Yeah. Or if anyone goes, it almost like a prison thing where it's like if anyone gets in the room with her, like you have an armed guard.
Like
yeah.
It's
where
like
it's just like, all right, if you try anything, I'm shooting you in the head.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Because the moron is just like, yeah, but maybe like our love will transcend this virus. And it's like,
that
nope.
part's him I mean, as you know, the last few years have shown me, a random person disregarding health protocols is that's not surprising to me. You know, that's not the like unbelievable part.
Yeah,
that's completely believable.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, if only there was a part where he like takes his mask off.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah, suddenly they like a bunch of like right wingers adopt 28 weeks later as like right wing canon because it's like, yeah, no mandate could stop him.
Yeah,
he's doing fine.
Yeah, not realizing that like that's what like causes the outbreak or whatever, because clearly there's like, you know, there's a block there for like connecting A to B.
Yeah. So technically a Christmas movie.
Sweet. Perfect for our post New Year's episode.
Yep.
It's funny though, because I think Carry On is, I don't know why I was thinking about it last night though. Like I think that's the only, I mean, other than Rhapsody, Street Kids, I think that's the only Christmas movie we watched this year. I don't know. Usually it's kind of like Halloween where we're just kind of like watching them like through the month, but haven't watched like any of the mainstays yet.
Dude, I watched Christmas with the Cranks. We watched that like last week. That movie is crazy.
Is it?
Have you seen that movie?
I remember I saw it when it came out because it came out on my birthday, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna like this, but I like went to see it specifically because it came out on my birthday.
Yeah,
I was like, that's cool.
Tim Allen is like one of the most hateful characters I've ever seen on screen in that movie. Just kind of a piece of shit the entire time. But what's worse than that is like the entire neighborhood is like a bunch of busybody shitheads. Mm-hmm. I think even in Trevor's Letterboxd review of Christmas with the Cranks, he was like, I would firebomb this entire neighborhood if I could. Because it's like the premise is that like they decide to not partake in Christmas because like their daughter is away.
Yeah,
she's like on vacation, or she's in like the Peace Corps. So like, oh, if she's not gonna be home, and he wants to do like a cruise. He's like, look, she's not gonna be home. It's not the same without her, you know. So it's like I got this bonus from work. Let's go to like Jamaica like during Christmas, and like let's just skip and the neighborhood gets so pissed about this.
Yeah.
Like Emmett Walsh, I was like, this is like the second scariest Emmett Walsh role that I've seen behind Blood Simple, because he's one of the neighbors, and then God, why can't I'm blanking on
Dan Aykroyd's like the main guy.
They're like, you're gonna put Frosty on your roof, and Tim Allen's just like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And it's like, it's scary. Like the neighborhood just like turns on them and is just like forcing them to do Christmas shit, and it's just like, I never want to be part of like a homeowners association or like live in like a suburban neighborhood, because like the suburban politics and like HOA politics, and let's like, you know, you could do like an updated version of this movie where it's like they would go to like their Facebook neighborhood group and like talk shit about them and like post a picture of their house, and they're like, no, the Cranks aren't doing hot Christmas this year, and all the comments are just like, die, kill yourself. Unhinged movie though.
I maybe watch that one.
Yeah, it'll we watched Muppet Christmas Carol a couple weeks ago, and that movie
that's
is
going
always...
that's going to happen. That's our Christmas Eve tradition. So that one will happen.
Yeah. Absolutely perfect movie. Still perfect. So great. Everything about it. Dude, I learned some sad shit about Jim Henson on TikTok the other day.
Like what?
Have you seen the Muppet? Have you seen like all the Muppet movies?
Yeah, the only one I haven't seen was the like Muppets Most Wanted from like 2013 or whatever.
There was like a clip that I saw from some podcast, but apparently in the first Muppets movie, there's like a scene where Kermit like sees a shooting star.
Yeah.
And apparently, since Muppet Christmas Carol is the first movie that they did after Jim Henson's death.
Yeah.
And there's the scene where Bob Cratchit sees the shooting star.
Yeah.
And that was like, they've done it in like almost all of them. And it's like, because of Jim Henson. And
I love that shot,
man,
because that's one of the few shots where you see Kermit in full, like they show his legs and he's just like standing there, and he looks so great when he's just standing. He's like, that when it like goes by. Yeah,
they did like a pressing of that soundtrack on vinyl, and we picked it up. And what the record sleeve, when you pull it out, it's like the square. It's that shot of Kermit standing.
Is it really?
The shooting
That's
star.
Awesome.
And I was like, I almost want to get like a replacement thing to put a replacement sleeve to put the vinyl in, and then pull the actual square out and like frame that up and put it on the wall or something like that. And then each side, like, you know how on a record there's like side A and side B, and like in the center it's
there's a little
Marley
picture.
and Marley on both sides, which is
that's
awesome.
funny. Cool. So you got like one of each or whatever, like one on each side or whatever.
Yeah, so like side A is one of the Marleys, and then side B is the other Marley, and it's like red vinyl, which was cool.
Did you see they were at the Game Awards?
Oh, I saw something with them and like Kojima, and he was like freaked out by him or something.
Oh, was he really?
I don't know.
Awesome.
There was, I didn't watch
awesome.
any of the videos, but like it cut to like what are their names? Jesus, why can't I remember anything?
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah, it cuts to like there was like Statler and Waldorf talking, and then it cuts to Kojima, and he looks very uncomfortable.
That's awesome.
Like
I didn't. I
like,
saw like a
he probably
compilation
thought that they were real.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like, do other like countries not know? I feel like the Muppets are pretty universal, but maybe not. Maybe other places don't know about them. The Oscars this year are going in a right direction because they got Conan hosting.
Yes,
but that's making me think like
good.
They should just have fucking Statler and Waldorf, or like just they should have the Muppets host the Oscars some year.
That would be
why
so
don't they do
good.
that? That'd be fucking awesome.
The Muppets and Conan, even just have Conan interacting with all of them. You know?
Yeah. No, that'd be sick.
That's like my one hope with Conan hosting the Oscars is that at some point someone gets lit up with like a bunch of squibs. Probably not, because gun violence is probably like a very touchy topic, but like, man, if Andy Richter would like come up to present an award and then like he gets shot by the dog,
that'd be awesome.
I'm like, Conan has, or like bring back the masturbating bear. Like there's so many like
something
iconic things from Conan's lore that you could just bring back.
Yeah.
Or like, do you know how insane it would be if Paul Rudd shows up and like Paul Rudd has an opportunity to like do something on like one of the biggest stages in the world, is to show the Mac and Me clip at the Oscar.
If so usually they have somebody from the movie do it, but you know how they do the Best Picture nominees is like every few minutes they'll have somebody come out and they'll talk about one of the movies, and they'll be like, this is this is Oppenheimer, and then they'll do like a clip reel from Oppenheimer. That'd be a perfect opportunity, is have Paul Rudd do like, this is this movie that's nominated for Best Picture, but then it's just the Mac and Me clip or whatever.
Oh.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
I wonder if like
Yeah.
Conan's gonna try to get them to do like allow him to do stuff like that.
That'd be really cool.
It beats the shit out of like Jimmy Kimmel's like walking around and making terrible jokes at people.
Yeah. Also, it's not. I don't know how much this is still like present, and like, I mean, I'm sure that's still a sore spot, but it's not on NBC. So I wonder if he'll, be able to take some digs at NBC. Maybe. I mean, it's been a while. Maybe that's not quite as like
throw out some Leno
much a
impersonations.
thing that he wants to like.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we good to pull for the movie?
Yeah.
Just got a regular couple again.
Bet a second.
That? Yeah. So it happens. Holiday months, we kind of.
Yeah.
Not that we haven't had any cup pulls, but kind of steer away from it for a couple months and then be back in.
It's nice to return.
Yeah. Okay.
Something weird in Japanese.
No. No. Wait, let me.
I say that, but I gave
like,
Katakuri's a 10, so.
Yeah. Okay, but anyways, the one that we are doing is from 1987, directed by Bruce Robinson. It's Withnail and I.
Okay.
It's a British movie, so it's in English.
Okay.
There's that. If you don't want to be spoiled for Withnail and I before the next episode, watch it before then. These episodes come out on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I'm a comer. And I'm TJ. And with me as always.
Man. As always. I don't know. I'm looking through the IMDb quotes and like some of these, which would, if I was brave, I would say, but I'm not saying.
I'm an RF. Mr. F.
Yeah, I'm Mr. F. And I got cops on my ass like white on rice. And
nice.
and I'm Nick.
All right. Bye-bye. Call me.
Goop. Yeah. Oh, there you go.